The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched higher than any cathedral on Earth. Crystalline pillars rose into darkness, each one representing a member civilization. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, glowing with different colors that painted the vast chamber in shifting rainbows. Ambassador Lyra Veshin stood in the center of the accused circle, a spot reserved for those who had violated council law. Her silver skin caught the light as she waited, perfectly still. Beside her stood the reason for this trial, the man who had turned her life upside down and brought her here to face judgment. Her husband, David Reed. The viewing galleries were packed. Aliens from across the galaxy had come to witness this moment. Some had tentacles, some had wings, some were just clouds of gas held together by magnetic fields. All of them were watching the two figures in the circle below. A Vexare noble and a human. The most unlikely pair in council history, Supreme Adjudicator Morven, materialized above them. A being of pure energy contained within a shimmering field. His voice boomed through the chamber without needing a speaker system. Ambassador Lyra Veshin of the Vexari Empire. You stand accused of harboring a Class 5 restricted weapon. You were accused of bringing unauthorized military capability into council space. You are accused of conspiracy to destabilize the Galactic Peace Accord. How do you answer these charges? Lyra lifted her chin. I deny all charges, Supreme Adjudicator. My husband carries no weapon of mass destruction. What you detected is a family heirloom, nothing more. Murmurs rippled through the galleries. On the council platform, War Marshal Dax of the Krinner Dominion rose to his full height. He was massive, with 4 arms and armor that gleamed like polished obsidian. Nothing more? Our sensors detected energy readings that match no known technology in our database. Power signatures that spike beyond anything we have seen outside of stellar phenomena. And the source is that blade your human carries? All eyes turned to David. He looked small compared to the aliens around him. Just 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighing maybe 160 pounds. His black hair was tied back in a simple knot. He wore formal Earth diplomatic clothing, simple and plain. At his side hung a katana in a worn wooden sheath. The sword looked ancient, the metal dark with age. David met the War Marshal's gaze without flinching. It belonged to my grandfather, and his grandfather before him. 800 years of family history. 800 years of concealed weapons technology, Counselor Threx hissed. The insectoid representative from Chitanos clicked his mandibles together. We have rules against bringing unknown weapons into council space. Rules that protect all of us from another war. Morven's energy form pulsed. The readings we detected came from that sword. Energy levels that rival our most powerful weapons. We demand you surrender it for inspection. If you refuse, Earth's petition for council membership will be denied. Your species will be quarantined to your home system for the next 1,000 cycles. No trade, no travel, no contact with galactic civilization. Lyra felt her heart sink. She had known this was coming, but hearing it spoken out loud made it real. Earth had worked for 15 years to reach this point. 15 years since they discovered faster-than-light travel and reached out to the stars. 15 years of proving they were not a threat, that they could be trusted. All of it would end here, because of one sword. She glanced at David. His face was calm, but she knew him well enough to see the tension in his shoulders, the way his breathing had changed, the slight shift in his posture. That meant he was preparing for something. His hand moved to the katana's grip. The temperature in the chamber dropped. Not slowly, but all at once, like someone had opened an airlock to space. Frost formed on the crystalline pillars. The energy readings on every sensor in the room went from concerning to catastrophic. Numbers that should not exist appeared on displays. Warnings blared. The blade had not left its sheath. Morven's form flickered with what might have been alarm. What is happening? What is that thing? David's fingers closed around the katana's handle. The worn leather grip, wrapped by his grandfather's hands decades ago, felt warm despite the cold filling the room. He looked up at the Supreme Adjudicator, at the War Marshal, at the hundreds of alien representatives watching from above. For 3 years, he had kept quiet. He had smiled and nodded, and played the role of the harmless human, Lyra's exotic pet from a backwater planet. He had let them think Earth was weak, that humans were soft. Time to change that. You want to know about the weapon? His voice was quiet, but it carried through the silent chamber. Let me tell you where I come from. Let me tell you about Earth. The lights began to dim. Power flowed from the chamber systems, pulled by something the council had no name for. The katana sheath started to glow with a soft white light that grew brighter with each passing second. Earth is what you classify as a death world, David continued. Class 7 gravity. Hostile environment. You look at that classification and think you understand what it means. You do not. He took a step forward. The guards moved to intercept him, but Morven held up a hand, stopping them. The adjudicator wanted to hear this. Most species in this council evolved in gentle conditions, David said. Low gravity. Stable climates. Abundant resources. When you developed intelligence, you quickly moved beyond physical conflict. You built energy weapons, spacecraft, civilizations, based on technology and reason. That is good. That is admirable. His grip tightened on the katana. The light around it intensified. Humans did not have that luxury. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Predators that could tear us apart. Whether that could freeze or cook us, diseases that decimated our populations, we did not develop technology fast enough to escape our own biology. So we fought. For 10,000 years, we fought with nothing but sharpened metal and will. Threx laughed, a chittering sound. Primitive savagery. We evolved beyond such barbarism ages ago. Did you? David's eyes were cold now. Or did you just never need to learn what we learned? You never spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing with your bare hands. You never had to turn violence into a science. You never discovered what happens to a species when survival requires not just intelligence, but absolute mastery of your own body and mind. He drew the katana 1 inch from its sheath. Light exploded through the chamber. Brilliant white light that turned the darkness into day. Every sensor in the council hall screamed warnings. The energy readings multiplied, doubled, tripled, spiraling into ranges that should only exist inside stars. Lyra had seen David practice with the sword 1,000 times. She had watched him move through forms and techniques that looked like deadly dances. But she had never seen this. She had never seen him channel everything he was, everything he could be, into the blade. Inquisitor Kell, a cybernetic investigator from the Nexari Combine, aimed every scanner he had at the katana. His systems overloaded instantly. Impossible. There is no power source. No technology. It is just folded steel. Just metal. How is this generating energy signatures comparable to a stellar collapse? David sheathed the blade. The light vanished. The temperature returned to normal. The warning stopped. The sword is not the weapon, he said softly. I am. The chamber fell into shocked silence. Lyra watched the council representatives processing what they had just witnessed. She had married David 3 years ago, and even she had not fully understood what he was capable of until this moment. On Earth, David continued, we call it by many names. Chi, prana, life force. The energy that exists in every living being. Most species never learn to access it because they never need to. But humans? We spent 10,000 years learning to harness it. To focus it. To turn our own life energy into a weapon more powerful than anything you can build in a factory. Morven's voice was quieter now, uncertain. This is unprecedented. We have no protocols for this. Then make new ones, Lyra said, speaking for the first time since the demonstration began. Because what my husband just showed you is not unique to him. Every human has this potential. Some more than others, yes, but all of them can learn it. War Marshal Dax leaned forward, his 4 eyes fixed on David. You claim every human can do this? With training? With discipline? With years of practice? David nodded. We have schools dedicated to it. Masters who teach the techniques. It is part of our culture, woven into our history. Then Earth is not just another primitive species, Counselor Threx said slowly. Earth is a military threat. No, Lyra said firmly. Earth is an opportunity. Think about what this means. A species that can channel life force, that can turn individual warriors into weapons capable of matching your technology. Would you rather have them as enemies or allies? Before anyone could answer, the chamber doors exploded inward. Smoke and fire filled the entrance. Through the chaos came armed figures, a dozen of them, wearing mismatched armor and carrying weapons that were definitely not authorized for council space. Forgive the interruption, their leader called out, his voice amplified by his helmet speakers. But we have been hired to acquire something valuable. That sword, specifically. The black market pays very well for unique weapons. Pirates, mercenaries. Lyra's blood ran cold. Someone had leaked information about David's sword, and now criminals had come to steal. David's hand went to his katana again. The energy reading spiked immediately. The pirate leader leveled his plasma rifle at the council platform. Nobody moves. Hand over the sword, and we leave peacefully. Resist, and we start shooting representatives. Your choice. Lyra looked at David, saw the calculation in his eyes. Saw him measuring distances, counting enemies, planning his response. Lyra, he said quietly, get behind me. Then he drew the blade fully, and the galaxy learned what a human warrior truly was. The katana cleared its sheath in one smooth motion, and reality seemed to bend around it. The blade burned with inner light, white and pure, casting shadows that danced across the crystalline walls. David stood between the pirates and the council representatives. His stance low and balanced, every muscle in his body coiled and ready. The first pirate fired his plasma rifle. The bolt screamed through the air, hot enough to melt steel. David moved, not away from the shot, but toward it. His katana traced a perfect arc through space, meeting the plasma bolt at the exact moment and angle needed to split it in two. The energy dissipated harmlessly to either side, leaving scorch marks on the floor, but nothing more. Impossible, Threx breathed from the council platform. Physics, David replied, not taking his eyes off the attackers. Plasma is ionized gas. Sharp enough blade, fast enough speed, correct angle. You can cut anything, even energy. 3 more pirates opened fire. David became a blur of motion. The katana moved so fast, it left trails of light in the air, a pattern of glowing lines that wove between the plasma bolts. Each shot was deflected, split, or redirected. Not one touched him. Not one reached the council behind him. The pirate leader signaled his team. They spread out, trying to flank David from multiple angles. Standard military tactics. Surround the target. Create crossfire, overwhelm defenses. David smiled. They were thinking like soldiers. He was thinking like a warrior who had spent 20 years studying an art form that was older than most of the species in this chamber. He moved forward. To the council representatives watching, it looked like one moment, he was in the center of the room. The next, he was among the pirates on the left flank. His katana flashed 3 times. 3 plasma rifles fell to the ground in pieces, cut so cleanly the edges glowed white-hot. The pirates stumbled back, unhurt but disarmed. He is not killing them, Morven observed. He could, but he is choosing not to. That takes more skill than killing does, Lyra said. Her voice was steady, but her hearts were racing. She had seen David practice, but never in actual combat. Never with lives on the line. Control, precision, discipline. That is what separates a master from a killer. 2 pirates on the right tried to rush David while his back was turned. He spun, his katana horizontal at chest height. The blade passed through their armor straps and weapon harnesses without touching their skin. Their equipment fell away, leaving them standing in undergarments, harmless and shocked. The remaining pirates hesitated. Their leader barked orders, but fear was spreading through the group. They were professionals, trained mercenaries, who had fought across a dozen star systems. They had never encountered anything like this. War Marshal Dax was leaning forward now, his forearms gripping the railing. His military mind was cataloging every move, Every technique? Incredible, he muttered. The economy of motion. The efficiency. He wastes nothing. Every movement serves multiple purposes. The pirate leader made a decision. He dropped his rifle and drew a vibroblade, a weapon capable of cutting through starship hull plating. He activated a personal shield, military-grade technology that could stop anything short of ship-mounted weapons. Then he charged David directly. Putting all his mass and momentum behind the attack, David waited, calm, centered. The katana held in a guard, position that looked almost casual. The vibroblade met the katana. Metal screamed. Sparks flew. The vibroblade shattered. The pirate's shield overloaded with a flash of blue light. David's blade continued its arc, the flat of it striking the pirate leader in the chest, sending him flying backward. He hit the wall and slid down, unconscious. Silence filled the great hall. The remaining pirates looked at each other, then at their weapons, then at David standing in the center of the room with his glowing sword. Without a word, they dropped their weapons and raised their hands in surrender. David lowered his katana, but did not sheath it. Station security rushed in, taking the pirates into custody. The whole fight had lasted less than 3 minutes. Inquisitor Kell was frantically reviewing his sensor data. The energy output during combat was exponentially higher than during the demonstration. He was holding back before. Even now, even after that display, he is holding back. Lyra stepped forward, addressing the council. You wanted to understand what makes humans dangerous. This is it, not the sword. Not technology. The discipline. The training. The ability to channel life force through years of practice. My husband has been studying his art for 20 years. There are others on Earth who have studied for 50 years. 60. Some schools trace their lineage back thousands of years. An entire planet of potential warriors, Counselor Threx said slowly. The mockery was gone from his voice now, replaced by something that might have been respect. Or fear. How many humans can do what we just witnessed? Millions have some training, Lyra replied. Thousands have dedicated their lives to mastering it. And every single human has the potential to learn. Morven's energy form pulsed with deep thought. This changes everything. Earth's petition must be reconsidered. We cannot quarantine a species with this capability. They would see it as an act of war. And they would be right too, War Marshal Dax added. I have fought for 300 years. I have commanded armies and conquered star systems. I tell you now, with absolute certainty, that I do not want humanity as an enemy. Before the discussion could continue, Kell's sensors blared a new alert. His cybernetic eye glowed bright red as he processed the incoming data. Supreme Adjudicator, we have a situation. Multiple vessels entering the system, 27 signatures. Military configuration. Morven turned to the main display. The image showed space around the station, and the new arrivals were clear. Warships, big ones. Identify them. Critter signatures, but not Dominion fleet codes. These are broken chain vessels. Kell's voice was tense. It is the Rebels' Supreme Adjudicator, Broken Chain, a rebel faction that had split from the Critter Dominion 3 years ago. They rejected the Council's peace accords and advocated for military expansion. They had been operating in the outer regions, building forces, waiting for an opportunity, and now they were here. The rebel flagship opened a communication channel. The face that appeared on the screen was Critter, but scarred and angry. Commander Grath, a military leader who had been stripped of rank for war crimes and now led the rebellion. Galactic Council, Grath's voice boomed through the chamber. Your reign ends today. We have been watching your trial. We have seen recordings of the human weapon. That power belongs in the hands of warriors, not diplomats. We are claiming the human and his blade for the new Critter Empire. You have 1 hour to surrender both, or we will destroy every inhabited moon in this system. The transmission cut off. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives were shouting, arguing, demanding action. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight. Most were just panicking. Morven raised his hand, and silence fell. War Marshal Dax, what are our defensive capabilities? Dax pulled up tactical displays, 5 defense platforms, 400 station security personnel. Against 27 warships and whatever ground forces they carry, we can hold for perhaps 2 hours before the shields fail. Then they will board us, and we will be overwhelmed. Then we evacuate the council, Threx suggested. We cannot risk the representatives. There is not enough time, Kel said. Their ships are already in attack formation. They will fire on any vessel that leaves the station. Lyra watched David. He had sheathed his katana and was studying the tactical display with intense focus. She knew that look. He was planning something. There is another option, David said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. The small human who had just defeated a dozen armed pirates. The warrior who could channel life force into a weapon. Let me guess, War Marshal Dax said. You think you can fight them? Not alone, David replied. He activated his personal communicator. There are 6 other humans on this station. Embassy, staff, and security. 3 of them are former Special Forces soldiers. 1 is a master of staff combat. Another practices with dual swords. They all have training similar to mine. 7 humans, Threx said flatly. Against thousands of rebel troops. That is suicide, maybe David acknowledged. Or maybe you were thinking about this wrong. You were thinking about numbers and firepower. But boarding actions happen in narrow corridors. Close quarters. No room for formations or heavy weapons. That is our environment. That is where we excel. Morven studied David carefully. You understand that if we allow this, if we let Earth's representatives fight, we are essentially accepting your species as military allies. Earth will be part of this conflict whether your petition is approved or not. I understand, David said, and I accept those terms. Why? Morven asked. Why would you risk your life for a council that was about to quarantine your entire specie? Corridors, it was chaos. It was desperate. It was magnificent. In the council chamber, Supreme Adjudicator Morven watched the battle unfold. They are insane. They will be slaughtered. No, War Marshal, Dax said slowly, studying the tactical display. Look, they are forcing close engagements. Every Earth ship that grapples with a rebel vessel becomes a battlefield where humans excel. They are not trying to win a space battle. They are turning it into 10,000 individual fights. And in those individual fights, humans had the advantage. Throughout the station, the tide began to turn. Torres cut through rebel defenses at the power core, her katana singing through the air. Lou's dual swords wove patterns that dazzled and destroyed. Williams's staff struck with enough force to dent armor plating in the hangar. David faced the last wave of rebel troops. His katana blazed with light, brighter than ever before. Every ounce of his will, every bit of his life force, channeled into the blade. He raised the sword above his head. The light intensified until it filled the entire hangar, bright as a star. Then he brought it down in a single perfect cut. A wave of pure force erupted from the blade, traveling across the hangar floor like a tsunami. It struck the remaining rebels and their dropships, not with sharp edges but with overwhelming kinetic energy. Bodies and machines flew backward. Armor crumpled. Weapons shattered. When the light faded, David stood alone in a circle of unconscious enemies. He had not killed anyone, but he had ended the battle. Lyra stared at him. I have never seen you do that before. I have never had to, David replied. He swayed slightly, exhausted. That took everything I had. She caught him before he fell. You did it. You actually did it. Did it, he corrected. Earth did it. On the displays, the rebel fleet was breaking apart. Half had surrendered. The others were fleeing. Admiral Price's fleet, battered but victorious, was securing the system. In the council chamber, Morven made a decision. Open a channel to all council worlds. Record what I am about to say. When the channel was open, when every member civilization was listening, the Supreme Adjudicator spoke. Today, the Galactic Council witnessed something unprecedented. We saw 7 humans defend this station against thousands. We saw Earth's fleet, outnumbered and outgunned, fight with courage and skill we have not seen in centuries. We saw a species that we dismissed as primitive prove themselves to be the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. Earth's petition for council membership is approved immediately. Furthermore, Earth is granted seats on all major military committees. We need allies like humanity. We need to learn from them. Because today, they reminded us of something we forgot. True strength does not come from technology or numbers. It comes from discipline, from courage, from the will to stand and fight when everything says you should run. The transmission ended. Throughout the station, the remaining rebels surrendered. The battle was over. David, still leaning on Lyra, allowed himself to smile. The medical bay was crowded with wounded from both sides. Human medics worked alongside alien doctors, treating rebels and defenders alike. David sat on an examination table while a Vexari doctor scanned him with instruments that hummed and clicked. The doctor's silver face showed concern. "Your body is functioning at 70% capacity," the doctor reported. "Muscle tissue is damaged throughout your frame. Energy reserves are depleted. By all rights, you should be unconscious." "I probably will be soon," David admitted. His arms felt like dead weight. Every breath was an effort. The cost of channeling that much life force, of pushing his limits that far, was catching up to him. Lyra stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. She had minor plasma burns on her arms where her armor had failed, but she had refused treatment until David was examined. Will he recover? With rest, yes. Humans have remarkable regenerative capacity. The doctor administered something through an injector. This will help with the pain and accelerate healing. But he needs to sleep. His body needs time to restore what he depleted. Before David could respond, the door opened. War Marshal Dax entered, followed by Ambassador Torres and Security Chief Williams. Both humans looked exhausted but uninjured. Torres's katana was still at her side, now cleaned and sheathed. Williams's staff had a new dent in it. "How are the others?" David asked. "Ambassador Liu has a broken arm," Torres reported. The team at the communications hub took the worst of it. 2 of them are in surgery, but they will survive. The rebels. 400 prisoners. Minimal casualties on their side as well. Dax crossed his forearms, a gesture of respect among Crinner. "You fought a battle against overwhelming numbers and managed to avoid a massacre. That is remarkable." "We are trained to disable, not kill," David said. "Though I will admit, there were moments when that choice made things harder." "Harder," Williams repeated with a tired laugh. "That is one word for it. I had 50 rebels trying to breach the communications hub. 50. I have never hit so many things with a stick in my life. The council is convening in 1 hour," Dax continued. "They want to formally approve Earth's membership and discuss the implications of today's battle. You should be there." "I can barely stand," David pointed out. "Then we will get you a chair," Torres said. "This is important, David. Earth just proved itself to the entire galaxy. We need to be present when they acknowledge that." The Vexari doctor reluctantly cleared David for limited activity. Lyra helped him into a clean uniform. The formal Earth diplomatic attire that looked so plain compared to the elaborate outfits worn by other species. But today, plain did not mean weak. Today, everyone knew what humans could do. The council chamber was different now. The crystalline pillars still glowed, the viewing galleries were still full, but the atmosphere had changed. The representatives who watched David and the other humans enter were not looking at primitives anymore. They were looking at warriors, at equals. Supreme Adjudicator Morven materialized above the chamber. "We convene to address Earth's petition for council membership and to discuss the events of today. The record will show that Earth's representatives defended this station against rebel forces, demonstrating military capability and strategic value. The record will also show that they did so while minimizing casualties, showing restraint and discipline." Counselor Threx, the insectoid who had mocked humans at the start of the trial, rose to speak. "I was wrong. I admitted it privately, and now I state it publicly. I underestimated humans. I believed they were primitive because their technology was less advanced than ours. I failed to understand that advancement takes many forms. They advanced in ways we did not, ways we forgot or never knew. Other representatives spoke, each one echoing similar sentiments. The Chitanos representative talked about human courage. The Nexari delegate discussed human tactical innovation. Even species that had no warriors of their own recognized what they had witnessed. Then War Marshal Dax stood. His massive frame dominated the platform. I have commanded armies for 300 years. I have fought against every major military power in this galaxy. I tell you now, without reservation, that I would rather have humans as allies than face them as enemies. Not because of their numbers. Not because of their technology. But because of what I saw today. He gestured to David and the other humans. They fought with discipline I have rarely seen. They adapted to situations faster than I could track. They used weapons that should be obsolete but turned them into tools of precision. And most importantly, they chose restraint when they could have chosen slaughter. That is the mark of true warriors. Not the ability to kill, but the wisdom to know when not to. Morven pulsed with approval. Earth's petition is approved unanimously. Furthermore, this council grants Earth the following full membership status, seats on all military oversight committees, and designation as a Tier 2 military power, pending fleet development. Additionally, Earth is invited to establish cultural exchange programs focused on martial training. Many species have expressed interest in learning what humans call the warrior's path. David felt the weight of that announcement. Earth had entered the galactic stage as supplicants, asking for permission to trade and travel. In a single day, they had become military powers, allies, teachers. However, Morven continued, there is one issue that remains unresolved. The weapon that started this entire situation, Ambassador David's katana. We still do not fully understand how it generates such energy readings. David stood slowly, Lyra supporting him. He drew the katana carefully, letting the blade reflect the chamber lights. Supreme Adjudicator. This is a piece of folded steel. 800 years old. Made by my ancestor using techniques passed down through generations, there is no technology in it. No power source. No hidden weapons. Just metal? Then how? Inquisitor Kell asked, his cybernetic eye glowing. My sensors still detect energy levels that should not be possible from simple metal. Because you are measuring the wrong thing, David replied. The sword is not generating energy. I am the blade is just the focus. The tool I use to channel life force into physical form? Every human can learn to do this. Some of us use swords. Others use staffs, spears, bare hands. The weapon is not important. The discipline is he sheathed the blade. You wanted to confiscate it because you thought it was dangerous technology. But if you take this sword, IQ, N, pick up any piece of metal and do the same thing. The weapon is not the danger. The warrior is. And you cannot confiscate warriors, or even considered this. Then how do we regulate this ability? How do we ensure it is not abused? The same way we have regulated it on Earth for thousands of years, Torres interjected. Through tradition. Through teaching. Through schools and masters who pass down not just techniques, but philosophy. The martial arts are not just about fighting. They are about discipline, respect, self-control. Those lessons are built into the training. You're asking us to trust that your cultural traditions will prevent abuse, Threx said. That is a significant request. Yes, David agreed. We are asking you to trust us. The same way you trust each other not to abuse your own capabilities. The Krynner have incredible physical strength. The Vexari have advanced technology. The Chitanos have natural weapons. Every species brings something dangerous to the Council. You have made it work because you trust each other to use those capabilities responsibly. And if that trust is violated, Morven asked, no. Then you hold us accountable, the same as any other species. David met the adjudicator's gaze. But judge us by our actions, not your fears. Today, we fought to protect this station. We could have killed hundreds. We chose not to. That should tell you something about who we are. The chamber fell silent. Representatives consulted with each other, debated, argued, Finally, Morven made his decision. Earth will be allowed to maintain its martial traditions without council oversight. However, any human who wishes to carry traditional weapons in council space must be registered and must agree to the same restrictions as other military personnel. Additionally, Earth agrees to provide training opportunities for interested species so that others may learn these disciplines, agreed, David said. The other humans nodded. Then this matter is settled. Morven's energy form pulsed with finality. Welcome to the Galactic Council, Earth. We are honored to have you among us. The chamber erupted in applause. Not everyone was happy, but most recognized the historic nature of this moment. Earth had gone from petitioners to full members in a single day. They had proven themselves in the most dramatic way possible. As the ceremony concluded, as representatives came forward to congratulate the humans, David felt exhaustion finally catching up. Lyra guided him to a quiet corner where he could sit. "You did it," she said softly. "You changed everything." "We did it," he corrected. "Earth did it. All of us together." "What happens now?" David smiled despite his fatigue. "Now we show them what humanity is really capable of. Not just in combat. In everything, science, art, philosophy, culture, we are not just warriors. We are so much more." "I know," Lyra said. "That is why I married you." Outside the station, Earth's fleet was preparing to return home. Admiral Price sent a final transmission to the Council. "We are departing, but we will return. Earth looks forward to our new partnership. And if anyone threatens our people again, they will learn what we learned today. Humans do not give up. Humans do not back down. And humans never, ever abandon their own." In the medical bay, the wounded were recovering. Rebels and defenders talking, sharing stories, beginning the long process of turning enemies into something else. Maybe not friends, but at least people who understood each other. In the council chamber, representatives from a dozen species approached Torres, asking about training, asking if they could learn, asking if she would teach them. And in that quiet corner, David closed his eyes and let himself rest, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But for now, for this moment, everything was good. The galaxy had learned about humanity today, and humanity had learned something too. They were not alone. They had allies. They had a place among the stars. They were home. 3 months after the battle at the council station, Earth's embassy had transformed into something no one expected. What started as a diplomatic outpost now functioned as a cultural center, a training facility, and a symbol of humanity's new position in galactic affairs. Every day, dozens of aliens arrived, seeking to learn the martial disciplines that had shocked the galaxy during the rebel attack. David stood in the main training hall, watching a class of 20 students work through basic forms. The students were diverse. A Vexari diplomat practicing with a staff, 2 Chitanos warriors learning sword techniques, even a Krynner officer sent by War Marshal Dax himself working through meditation exercises. They moved slowly, deliberately, focusing on breathing and balance rather than speed or power. Ambassador Torres walked among them, correcting stances, offering encouragement. Her age had become an advantage. The alien students saw a woman in her 60s moving with grace and precision, understood that this discipline was not about youth or strength. It was about something deeper. "Lower your center of gravity," Torres instructed a Nexari student who was struggling with a stance. "You are thinking with your mind. Think with your body. Feel where the balance point is." The Nexari adjusted, wobbled, then found the position. His cybernetic enhancements hummed as they processed this new way of moving. Lyra entered the training hall, her diplomatic robes replaced with simple practice clothing. She had been studying under David for 3 months now, learning the basics of sword work. As a Vexari, her natural physical advantages made certain techniques easier, but the mental discipline required was the same. Perhaps harder because her species had not spent 10,000 years refining these methods. "They are improving," she observed, watching the class. "Some faster than others," David agreed. "The Chitano students are excelling at the physical techniques but struggling with the meditation. The Vexari are the opposite. It is fascinating to see how different species approach the same discipline. Have you heard from Williams? David nodded. Williams had been sent to the Crinner homeworld at Dax's request to establish a training program for their military. The War Marshal wanted his soldiers to learn human methods, to understand close combat the way Earth warriors did. He says they are enthusiastic students, David said. Aggressive, sometimes too much so, but dedicated. He thinks he can work with them, in Liu. Teaching at the Nexary Combine. They want to integrate martial training with their cybernetic programs. David smiled. He is having fun figuring out how to teach sword work to people who have 4 arms and built-in computers. The training session ended. The students bowed, a gesture David had taught them from Japanese tradition. They filed out discussing techniques, comparing notes, building friendships across species lines. This was what David had hoped for. Not just teaching combat, but building connections. Every student who learned these disciplines also learned about human culture, human philosophy, human values. They learned that strength without wisdom was dangerous, that power without control was destructive. They learned what it meant to be a warrior in the true sense. Later that day, David attended a council security meeting. The composition of the room would have been impossible 4 months ago. Humans sat at the table as equals, their opinions sought and valued. Earth's military advisor, General Hayes, was presenting an analysis of the rebel attack and recommendations for future defense. The key weakness in council security is the assumption that all threats will follow conventional patterns. Hayes explained. The rebels succeeded in their initial breach because they used tactics you had not encountered before. You need to expand your tactical database, run more varied simulations, train for unexpected scenarios. War Marshal Dax listened carefully. What you describe is resource-intensive. We would need to dedicate significant time to theoretical training. Yes, Hayes agreed. But the alternative is being surprised again. And next time, you might not have 7 humans with swords to bail you out. That got a laugh from the room. The battle had become legendary, the story growing with each retelling. 7 humans holding a station against thousands. It was the kind of tale that inspired songs and holovids. Earth has offered to assist with the training programs, Hayes continued. We can provide instructors, run simulations, share our tactical databases. In exchange, we ask for access to council defensive technology and joint training exercises. Greed, Morven said immediately. The Supreme Adjudicator attended these meetings remotely now, his energy form projected into the chamber. Earth has proven their value as military partners. We would be foolish not to accept their expertise. The meeting continued, covering ship patrols, sensor networks, intelligence sharing. Earth was integrating into the Council's defense structure faster than anyone had predicted. David listened more than he spoke, learning how galactic politics worked. Building relationships with representatives from other species. After the meeting, Inquisitor Kell approached him. The cybernetic investigator had become something of a friend over the past months, his initial suspicion replaced by genuine curiosity. I've been analyzing the energy readings from your sword, Kell said. I believe I am beginning to understand the mechanism. You are somehow converting biological electrical impulses into a focused field that resonates with the metal's molecular structure. Is that accurate? David considered. That is the technical description? Yes. We call it channeling chi, or life force. You call it bioelectric resonance? Same phenomenon, different language. Can you teach me? Kell asked. I am mostly cybernetic, but I still have organic components. I am curious if I can learn this. I do not know, David admitted. You would be the first heavily modified being to try. But yes, I am willing to teach you. The worst that happens is it does not work. And the best that happens, David smiled. You discover a part of yourself you did not know existed. That evening, David returned to his quarters to find Lyra reviewing reports. The pile was significant. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, requests for human advisors. Earth was suddenly in demand across the galaxy. We are going to need more diplomats, Lyra said. 3 other systems have requested embassy staff. The Nexary want a human military advisor. The Chitanos are asking for martial arts instructors. It is overwhelming. Good overwhelming or bad overwhelming? Good, I think. Earth is becoming influential faster than anyone expected. She set down the reports. But it is also creating tensions. Some species feel threatened by humanity's rapid rise. There is talk of forming a coalition to limit Earth's expansion. David sat beside her. We knew this would happen. Whenever a new power emerges, the old powers get nervous. We just need to be careful. Prove that we are not a threat. By teaching them to fight like you. By teaching them that fighting is the last resort, not the first. David took her hand. Every student I teach learns techniques, yes. But they also learn philosophy, control, restraint. The understanding that true strength means knowing when not to fight. That message is spreading. Lyra leaned against him. You are very optimistic for someone who almost died 3 months ago. I prefer to think of it as realistic. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, some species will resist. But look at what we have already accomplished. Humans teaching aliens. Aliens learning from humans. Friendships forming. Understanding growing. That is worth fighting for. That is worth the risk. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars through the viewport. Earth was visible, a blue marble in the distance. Home. The planet that had forged humanity in fire and violence. It had forced them to become warriors just to survive. Now that same planet was teaching the galaxy about discipline and control. A message came through David's communicator. Admiral Price requesting a conference call. David accepted, and the Admiral's face appeared on the screen. David, we have a situation. Not urgent, but significant. We have detected a ship entering the system. Unknown configuration, but massive. Bigger than anything in our database? Hostile. Unknown. They are broadcasting on all frequencies, requesting permission to meet with Earth's representatives. Specifically, they are asking for you. David exchanged glances with Lyra. Any identification? They call themselves the Architects. According to our records, they are one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They rarely interact with younger civilizations. No one has seen them in over 1,000 years. They want to meet with me? They say they have been watching humanity since the battle at the Council Station. They say they have something important to discuss. David stood, his fatigue forgotten. Tell them I will meet with them. Standard diplomatic protocols. Council observers present. I want everything documented. Understood. They are requesting a meeting tomorrow at the embassy. Should we be concerned? Always, David said, but also curious. If the Architects are coming out of isolation after 1,000 years, something important is happening. The next day, the entire embassy was on alert. Council security forces surrounded the building. Human Marines stood ready, traditional weapons at hand. David wore full formal attire, his katana at his side. Lyra stood with him, along with Torres Hayes, several other Earth representatives. The Architect's ship landed in the embassy courtyard. It was beautiful, organic-looking, more like a living creature than a machine. The airlock opened, and 3 figures emerged. They were tall, perhaps 8 feet, with bodies that seemed to shift between states. Solid, then translucent, then somewhere in between. Their faces were serene, ancient beyond measure. One of them approached David and spoke in perfect English. Ambassador David Reed, we are honored to meet you. I am Eldest Kren, speaker for the Architect Collective. We have come a long way to deliver a message. David bowed, a gesture of respect. We are honored by your visit. What message do the Architects wish to share? Eldest Kren smiled. We have been watching your species since you entered galactic space. We have seen your development, your struggles, your triumphs. What you accomplished at the Council Station confirmed what we suspected. Humanity is special. All species are special in their own way, David said carefully.
True, Kren agreed.
But humanity is special in a way we have not seen in 10 million years of observation. You are the first species in this galactic cycle to rediscover what we call the deep path, the ability to channel life force. to touch the fundamental energy that connects all living things. We architects learned this long ago. We thought we were the last. We are pleased to be wrong. You can do what we do. We could once. Now we have evolved beyond physical form, but we remember. The deep path is not just about combat, David. It is about understanding existence itself. Your species has barely scratched the surface of what is possible. David felt a chill run down his spine. What are you saying? We are saying that humanity's journey is just beginning. The sword work, the martial disciplines, these are the foundation. But there is so much more to learn. Ways to heal with focused life force. Ways to enhance growth, to strengthen others, to touch the space between stars. The deep path leads to transcendence, if you walk it far enough. Eldest Kren gestured, and a holographic display appeared. It showed images of ancient civilizations, beings who glowed with inner light, accomplishing feats that looked like magic, moving objects without touching them, healing injuries with a touch, traveling through space without ships. This is what awaits humanity if you continue to develop your abilities. This is your potential. Why tell us this? Lyra asked. Why reveal yourselves after so long? Because the galaxy is changing. Young species like humanity are rising. Old patterns are breaking. The architects have remained isolated, but we see now that isolation is no longer appropriate. You need teachers. Guides who remember the deep path and can help you walk it safely. You want to teach us? We offer to teach. The choice is yours. But understand, this is not just about combat or defense. This is about transformation. Humanity could become something more than you are. Something incredible. David looked at his colleagues, saw the wonder and fear in their faces. This was beyond anything they had imagined. Beyond the council, beyond politics and trade agreements. This was about the future of the species itself. We would need to consult with Earth's government, David said slowly. This is not a decision I can make alone. Of course. Take time to consider. We will wait, Alice Kren bowed. But know this, David Reed. You impressed us with your courage and skill. You impressed the galaxy. Now you have a chance to impress the universe. To show what humanity can truly become when they walk the deep path to its end. The architects departed, leaving behind more questions than answers. David stood in the courtyard with Lyra, watching their ship rise into the sky. This is bigger than we thought, Lyra said quietly. Yes, much bigger. David touched his katana, feeling the familiar worn grip. His grandfather's sword. His family's legacy? A tool that connected him to thousands of years of human history, and now possibly a key to humanity's future. What are you thinking? Lyra asked. I am thinking that when I drew this blade in the council chamber, I changed everything. Not just for Earth, but for the galaxy. Maybe for existence itself. Smiled, despite the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. I am thinking that the galaxy assumed humans were fragile. They were wrong. And now we get to show them just how wrong they were. Around them, the embassy bustled with activity. Students practicing forms, diplomats negotiating treaties, soldiers training for the next crisis. Humans and aliens working together, building something new. David looked at the stars, the endless possibilities waiting out there. The architects had offered to teach humanity secrets that could transform their species. The council had accepted Earth as military partners. The galaxy itself was changing, reshaping itself around this new power that had emerged from a death world. Everyone had assumed humans were fragile, primitive, weak. They had assumed wrong, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The sword that had lit the galaxy on fire burned quietly at David's side, waiting for whatever came next, because there would be more challenges, more battles, more moments when humanity would need to prove themselves. But David was not worried. He had his sword, his training, his people. He had Lyra beside him, and Earth behind him, and he had learned something important over the past 3 months. The galaxy was vast and ancient and full of wonders, but humanity had something special. Something that 10,000 years of warfare and survival had forged into their very souls. They had the will to stand when others would fall, the courage to fight when others would flee, the wisdom to show restraint when others would destroy. They had the warrior spirit, and that spirit would light the way forward. Into whatever future awaited them among the stars, retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.